If you want to feel desired, taken care of, and special, these 4 self-care activities are game changers. Now, what does self-care have to do with being adored in your marriage? Everything. Although I didn't used to know that in the bad old days. And especially number 4, it's a big game changer. So let's get started. I'm Laura Doyle, New York Times bestselling author, and I was the perfect wife until I got married. I'm passionate about showing women how to make their marriages playful and passionate without his conscious effort, even if it seems hopeless. This is the Empowered Wife podcast, where happy wives share exactly what they did and said to make their struggling marriages last and thrive. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of self care? Do you think of a hot bubble bath, or is it like a code word? It means you should be exercising, or is it something else entirely? What do you think of for self care? Share in the comments below. And if you are listening to the audio version of this, then come on over to YouTube, do a search for Laura Doyle, and join us in the conversation. If you're not feeling adored and cherished in your relationship, it feels pretty lonely and disappointing. I still remember how that felt. And then you might be wondering, what does self care even have to do with any of that if he's not paying attention to me and if he doesn't even want to touch me, which is where I was stuck. And I felt the same way. I felt like self care, I didn't want to do self care. I wanted to have together care. I wanted together time, and doing something by myself was just like further reminder that my husband really wanted nothing to do with me. And that just felt even lonelier. I had no idea what the connection was between self care and having a good marriage, but it turns out my husband wants me to be happy. That's of utmost importance to him and to thousands of men that I've interviewed. They all say it's very important for their wives to be happy. And because I was so miserable all the time, my husband didn't know how he could succeed with making me happy. And that felt stressful to him. So he was avoiding me because I was so unhappy. And I was so unhappy because he was avoiding me. And I did not realize I was the one with the key. I'm the only one that can make me happy by doing self care. And then once I got happy, that made me an irresistible magnet to my husband, kind of like when we were first falling in love. And I was so happy at that time too, right? So I had to go back to remembering what I used to do to make myself happy. I figured out a system for myself to make myself happy every single day. And it involves doing at least 3 things a day for my own delight. And I call it frivolous fun, just frivolous fun. So that means it doesn't have to save money. It doesn't have to improve the environment, or it doesn't have to improve my cardio fitness. Like, there doesn't have to be any other goal to it. It just has to make me smile and feel good. So some of the things that are on my list are watching cat videos, or playing games on my phone, or just having a cup of tea laying on the patio. Or, okay, and this one is exercise does actually do some improvement for my cardio fitness, but playing volleyball is a huge one for me because it makes me feel like a kid at recess when I play. I'm always full of endorphins and happy afterwards. So that's a big one on my list. Now, your list is going to look different because everyone's got different things that make them happy, except for I find these 4 things belong on almost every list. So I want to just invite you to really try these on and see if your soul responds to these 4 things as a yes for you. So number 1 is gabbing with girlfriends. Talking to other women fills me up, whether I'm talking to my sisters or my girlfriends or my niece about our relationships or just the unique experience of being a woman. It gives me something that I need, like a vitamin, like vitamin G for gabbing with girls. And when I used to try to make my husband like my everything person, it just made things tense around here because it was more than one mere mortal man can handle to be the only person that knew, heard, and saw and understood me. I need other women to give me that. And one of the things that I can do is just give myself a half-hour conversation with a friend, or maybe go to lunch with a friend. Or once a year, I go to the annual Relationship Coach Symposium, where I am with like dozens and dozens of my friends who all are passionate about the same topic as me, which is how to have a playful, passionate relationship. So to say that fills me up is an understatement. I just love it. I come home from that few days super filled up. And then when I get with my husband, I'm not so needy for those kinds of conversations that I've already had with all the women in my life. So it really seems to do something magical for me in that regard. And one of the ways, if you're not a relationship coach, you can't come to the coach symposium or the coaches meetings that we have, one of the places you can find a bunch of women who think that having a great relationship is important is by going to lauradoyle.org/group and joining the Adored Wife group for free. Number two is to spend time in solitude. Now, I know I just said I love gabbing with my girlfriends, and I do, but I also need some solitude. I need time to myself. In fact, when I don't get time to myself, the person that I'm with drives me batty. Like their breathing just drives me batty. In fact, I remember during the pandemic, my husband and I started out going for walks together because that was really all you could do. So, and we were together all the time, 24/7. And I just remember one day going like, I don't want to walk with you anymore. I want to walk by myself. And so I did. And then I was able to get some solitude. And then he was driving me less batty. But remember during the pandemic, it was really hard to get away from the people you lived with. We were all kind of stuck together all the time because there was no commute. There was no time when you were going to the store by yourself, no time to yourself ever. And we really saw the demand for coaching skyrocket during that time. And I think this is one of the reasons. Just as a mere mortal woman, we all, or anybody, we all need some solitude. So this is something to check to see if you might need more time alone. Like one of my students, Shonda, realized that she wanted to actually be alone for the entire weekend. She wanted to go away and spend a whole weekend by herself in a hotel just to be alone with her thoughts. And she was afraid to tell her husband this because she said, why am I even married if I like being alone so much? But actually, her husband was really receptive to this idea that this was going to make her happy to go away for the weekend by herself. So he sent her off with a kiss and she got that time to herself and she loved it. And she also missed her husband and she was really happy to see him when she got back. So win-win for everyone. Now, only you know how much alone time you actually need. It might be a whole weekend, it might just be that you need an hour or two, but check to see if you might need some solitude. So, number three is to do creative self expression. So, women are born creators. You are creative, even if you think you're not, you are. And finding some form of self expression to get that creativity out into the world has been vital for my self care. So, for example, I love to write, I love to sing, I love to decorate for the seasons, to arrange my home accordingly. And every so often, I like to cook something special. Like the other day, I made some hot chocolate from scratch. And which reminds me, you don't have to be good at this for it to be great self care, which just means frivolous fun, right? So maybe for you, you like to play piano or crochet, or maybe you like to restore furniture, or maybe you like to act, or you blog, or you take pictures, or make videos, or you write scripts or songs, or maybe you garden, maybe you put together fresh outfits, maybe you design clothes. Maybe you do your hair and makeup differently all the time so that you can get a fresh look. Maybe mixology lights you up. I mean, are any of these things resonating with you as something that could fill you up? Because that's the point of self-care is to make you feel good. But with creative self-expression, it's also about making your mark in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody has to wear it or taste it or even see it, but also, taking your guitar to the open mic or using the tablecloth that you adorned yourself for the party or framing your pictures for holiday gifts, that can be satisfying too. Number four is to get remedial self care. And what I mean by that is if any of those self care items that I just listed sound overwhelming, it could be, and it often is, that I need remedial self care, which could just be some food, it could be some rest, it could be a break. Maybe I need to have a little bit of fun. Right now, most of the time, I'm pretty good about getting my self-care in every day. I do at least 3 things a day to make myself happy. But sometimes life just happens in such a way that I get overwhelmed, or I've been working too hard, or I've had too much fun. And then the most vital and urgent thing to do next is to take a break or take a nap or just turn off my brain for a while. That can be really hard to do in the middle of a work project that has to get done, has a big deadline, and I'm kind of swept up in that. And yet at the same time, I'm going on fumes. I don't have any resources left. And this is when it's an act of courage to maybe march myself to bed and just take that nap right in the middle of everything, or to stop and have a meal, a nourishing meal, because I've gone too long without eating. This is just remedial self care that I need. And it still can happen from time to time. One of the biggest signals that I need remedial self care is that my husband is really, really bothering me. And it seems like the problem is really him. But you know what? If I just like go take a nap and then wake up and feel a little more refreshed after that, I can find out if things are really as bad as I think with him, or if maybe I was just overtired. Now, what resonates for you? Do you ever get so fed up with your husband you just can't stand him? And it seems like everything is his fault. And how would it be to give yourself remedial self care when that comes up? So, if you're not feeling desired and taken care of and special and adored the way you want to be, well, I know how painful that is. And that's why I'm sharing these 4 self care activities that every woman needs in order to feel all those things that we want to have in our relationships, the things that are our birthright as women to enjoy if we know how to take care of ourselves, which, by the way, demonstrates for everyone else in our lives how we want to be taken care of. So you're also going to be inspiring your husband to treat you better as you implement these 4 necessary, important self care activities. So, how would it be to start experimenting with gabbing with girlfriends and giving yourself some solitude, and also making sure you're getting creative self expression in and doing remedial self care when your husband is getting on your very last nerve? Are you willing to experiment with this? I would love to hear how that goes. It sure has been life changing for me, because doing this kind of self care has really led to feeling desired, adored, and special. And that's what I want for you too. So let's do some self care. If you love these tips on how I transformed my struggling marriage into one that's playful and passionate, then subscribe to the Empower Wife podcast right now. Get the ideas and tips and inspiration that you need to make your marriage shiny and amazing also. On next week's podcast, my guest is going to share what happened when she did not want to be married at all. She's going to share what she did that changed absolutely everything. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I have a good step ladder, but I never knew my real ladder. For more on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, even if it seems hopeless right now, check this out.